Borrow, buy, die, or work, spend, die. Which ones are you? Now, what do I mean by that? If you look at sort of how things really work, this is what people do, you know, billionaires, millionaires. They borrow, yeah, they buy assets, yeah, they keep those assets, yeah, and then they die. But they have no intention of clearing the debts, you know, the borrowing. The idea is they borrow, yeah, they buy assets which appreciate in the system we live in, and then they die, and then they move the debt on either to a family member, whatever it is, or they push it somewhere. But they have no intention of actually clearing that debt. And then you have other people who work, yeah. So they work, say, 9 to 5 job. They spend it on all these sort of things that have no real value to them, yeah. So they'll buy expensive bags and all this thing, which again, when you try to resell them and they lose half their money, everything else, and then they die. And they accumulate loads of what I call, you know, bad debt, yeah, and then they die, and that debt gets pushed on. But when you actually look at it, all it is really is everybody consuming, creating loads of debt, and then pushing that debt on. Yeah. That's why, again, when you think about it, I was thinking about it the other day. There's a guy in my area, a wealthy sort of housing guy, and he got in a bit of financial trouble, and he hung himself. Yeah, not a nice thing, because it got to the point where he had to sort of perhaps, you know, sell that stuff to clear that debt, and it was such an sort of intense thing for him to actually have to look at a way to clear that debt, yeah, that he'd rather kill himself than clear that debt. So what was I saying? If you look at it, the system's set up in such the opposite way of that. That man thinking of, you know, selling the stuff and actually clearing the debt and having a more freer experience himself. He'd rather, you know, kill himself, take away the experience than actually do that. Yeah, and that's what we've got to realize. This system we live in is such a toxic cesspool. It really is. You know, you've got everybody and all these sort of like illusional layers of debt. Some debt has value, some debt has no value. People are determining that value. Yeah, the house has got value. Yeah, the bag and the shoes haven't got any value. So all the value's made up. And then when you actually start to pick all this apart, you think, what the fuck are we doing? You know, we're killing ourselves. We're killing each other. We're hurting each other.